Passivhouse.
Okay. Well, this is one of the passive houses we have on Vauban district, and the concept of a passive house has been quite new 25 years ago. So not everyone had the courage to do it. Today it really should be the standard of construction, but firstly I have to explain what it consists of. So what you see is a pretty normal looking multifamily house, but they gather three new revolutionary elements. The first one is they have to have a very good thermal insulation of the walls and the roof and the ground level. So usually about 25-30 centimeter of insulation is used, and mostly it is mineral wool or used paper, recycled paper. So the first one is a very good insulation. The second one is they have to have very good windows. These are triple glazed windows with a very low U value, so very little heat gets radiated outward. The third element is very important too. This is the ventilation. So if you insulate a building very well, at a certain time you can't breathe anymore. If you have airtight windows and whatnot, then you couldn't breathe anymore. So we need to transport fresh air into the building and to extract the used air from toilets and so on. Mm-hmm. And this gets done by, at the same time, reusing the heat that is in the used air. The used air has always 20 Celsius grades of temperature, and the outer air, which can be -5 degrees, gets preheated up to 15 Celsius grades only from the energy that is leaving the building. Mm-hmm. So we need a heat exchanger, and there are different concepts for this. And this project has decided to have individual heat exchanger for each apartment. Mm-hmm. So also if you are on holiday in winter, then you can even turn the ventilation off, because you don't need to exchange the CO2 anymore. Or there's no breathing, then you can turn off the ventilation or reduce the velocity. Mm-hmm. and thus save even more electricity for the ventilation.
I see.
And the fourth thing that is important as constituent to a passive house is the fact that we are radiating heat all the time. Every human radiates at least 100 watts. So if you place, let's say, 10 persons into a 100 square meter apartment, that would be enough to keep the temperature even in winter with -5 degrees. So 10 persons per 100 square meter, that would be fine. Mm-hmm. But usually you might have only 3 or 4 persons. So even the passive house usually needs some residual heat, which comes from a heating system. There are different options, and here they choose to connect to the district heating, like all the other buildings. In our passive house I live in, we decided to have our own cogeneration engine and a solar thermal collector.
I see.
So to conclude, the definition of a passive house is a building that has a heating demand lower than 15 kilowatt hours per square meter of heated space and year. Mm-hmm. And this is very, very little. This is 1/10 of the actual average in Germany. Mm-hmm. 1/10 only. So to give you an example, I live in 90 square meter. We have 3 rooms or 3 places, and I pay usually only 120, 140 euro per year for the heating of this entire apartment, without hot water, just the heating.
I see.
Actually, I pay more for the hot water than for the heating.
21,
22. Hello.
Hello.
She's living here. She's from France.
He's the best man.
I see.
No, come on. And she's the best woman and best resident.
Ist noch besser.
Yeah, en français, je fais la traduction.
Unser Haus ist ja voll Holz.
Yeah.
Du weißt es.
Our house is completely wood construction. Ich übersetze weiter, wenn du willst.
Gerne. Sicher hast du schon erzählt, was die Voraussetzungen sind.
Ich habe die Elemente vom Passivhouse erzählt, genau.
Genau. die Südorientierung.
I forgot about the southward orientation of the building. That is very important too, because a passive house has a double meaning, and one meaning is it gets passively heated by the sun. Well, in summer it might be too much sun, but especially in winter when the sun is lowest, by the big windows on the southern facade it can penetrate the building and really do all the heating. When it's very cold outside, the sun alone is enough to keep the temperature up. Only when it's cloudy, we might need some additional heating.
Willst du ihm die Wohnung zeigen?
Would you like to see the apartment?
Da ist der Theo gerade noch da.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ich muss es dem Theo sagen.
Alles klar.
Weil dann kann er ja von der Seite gucken.
Okay, gern.
Weil ich so arbeite.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great opportunity. Well, she's great. She has been not so much an active member. Yes, alles klar. It is not cleaned up because they come from holiday. So, but if you,
Die Jugend, nicht ich.
yeah, the youngsters came from holiday. So,
Theo, sorry. Dieser Mann hier kommt aus
Herr Matsuda aus Japan.
Japan. Er muss auf die Terrasse hoch, dass er mal guckt, wie so eine Holzwohnung schaut.
Muss hat sie gesagt.
Freut sich sehr.
Okay.
Ist ja mein alter Kollege, bester Mann hier.
Also ich meine ehrlich gesagt, wenn ihr reinkommt, wir können ja auch gehen.
Nein.
Nee, weil ich muss ja auch gehen. Also,
Vermutlich wäre das Beste, nur auf den Balkon zu gehen und das Haus von der Südseite. Am Zimmern sind wir gar nicht interessiert.
auf der Terrasse oben.
Ja?
You welcome.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Ich muss arbeiten. I must to work.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Ah, yes. You're welcome. Danke.
Okay.
Theo. Tschüss.
Danke dir. Ciao, ciao. Should I explain the windows?
Yes, please.
And maybe, or is this a good position for the camera?
Yes, I think
All right.
so.
So this is another very crucial part of the passive house concept.
Yes.
You need to have big windows on the southern facade. So that's in order to capture as much sunlight as possible. And the idea is the visible light falls into the building. It's transparent. But then inside the building, all visible light gets converted to infrared radiation. And then these two of the three window panes are coated with some special material that is reflective for infrared radiation. So if we would have infrared eyes, these would be complete mirrors to us. So the idea is that once the visible light gets trapped inside, it cannot leave the building anymore. It's a very simple concept, but also very efficient, and that's the reason why you really need very good windows.
I see. So how about in summer? I heard some stories,
Yeah.
bad stories, and some passive house is too hot
Yeah.
In summer, so due to big windows.
Well, if you're not applying a good architect, that can happen. But there are two measures. You see these textile
Yes.
planes that cover up the windows in summer a little, and also you may here see that the roof is much larger than the building. So when the sun is highest, these maybe in August, these roof structures already cover. We can't see it here, but this shadow is cast just right before the window. So right now there is no direct sunlight entering the building. This is very important, and it's just a function of the quality of the architect. For example, we are having a balcony here.
Yes.
The other level below us is not is a bit bigger than this one, but this part is the balcony, and this casts a shadow to the lower window. We may see it much better when we are outside.
I see. And so we can see green on the roof.
Green roofs, yes. That has been mandatory for Vauban district. So on Vauban district, you are free to build tilted or inclinated roof, But if you choose to build a flat roof, you must green it.
I see.
And that's for the simple reason that the greenery keeps about 70% of the annual rainwater on the roof. This contributes to the cooling in summer, for example, after a tempest, then the next day it doesn't get as hot. And also the inundation is reduced. So as 80% of the rainwater is kept on the roofs, we have less inundation problems on Vauban district.
I see.
And also the rainwater keeps away from the canal system, from the sewage system. So the sewage system has to deal with less and more concentrated wastewater, and that makes it more efficient and less cost intensive.
Okay.
So in all, we can say we as Forum Vauban, together with the city, we try to include hundreds of little points into the concept.
Yes.
One cannot say that we have one principle and then deduced from that, but we were collecting every minor detail. We got ourselves informed. That was very, very important. The future constructing citizens got themselves informed. And then we saw how many solutions are available in the details of a building or for transport and so on. And it's very important to improve on all these little details.
I see. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay.
This is pretty cleaned up. I guess they won't close the window in order to not let the heat in too much. So, und jetzt müssen wir, glaube ich, ein bisschen helfen. Oder lieber, wir haben ja zwar ähnliche Fenster, aber nicht die Größe. Alles klar, vielen Dank.
Machen wir auch immer, ich weiß nicht, was
Ja.
machen wir auch eigentlich immer.
Genau. They even close the blinds.
Manchmal knallt es ein bisschen.
Yeah. Not always, yeah.
Do you need such heating machine?
Wie oft ist die Heizung an im Winter?
Naja, also meine Mutter heizt halt schon ganz gerne.
Okay. Yeah, it is needed because the demand of the individual users is different, and but it's only very little. And this is a very small radiator for this big room, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 external facades. So that is, imagine if this would be a building in a row, the radiator would be only 2/3 of the size. It is. There are two different types of solar panels. Solar thermal, which makes heat, and this is a heat panel. And there's photovoltaics. This is also a solar heat panel. And currently, I don't see. Maybe this one, this very thin one. This should be a photovoltaic, an electricity generating panel. And unfortunately, 25 years ago, when we were starting the planning, photovoltaics was 8 times as expensive as today. So this is why many of us didn't have the means or the courage, or mostly the means, to put also this expensive photovoltaics on the roof. But today it will become mandatory, and it's absolutely reasonable because it's the least expensive way of generating electricity by far. The problem is only that we need electricity also at night, and then we need a storage system, and those storage systems are not yet widely available because we need these batteries for the cars at first, lithium batteries and so on.